Alright, so now we're going to start constructing some of the objects that we have talked about before. And in geometry, construction means using a compass and a straight edge. Now this is a compass that we will be using, and down here you have a ruler. Now you can use a ruler as a straight edge, but we are not supposed to measure things with a ruler. We are using the compass for measuring. 2000 years ago, when the Greek scientists invented and created geometry and its methods, they didn't have rulers with measurements on them. They strictly used the compass for measuring. And I realize that you may not have a compass at home, so you don't have to follow the steps with a compass, but you should take notes of the steps that we are doing, and I'm going to show you how it's done, and we're going to practice this in class. So when we want to copy a segment, we start off by drawing a point. Realize when you look at the segment has two endpoints, and so in order to copy this segment, we're going to draw 2 points. 1 point, excuse me. And next we're going to take our compass, and we're going to put the center of the compass, that's the side with the needle, on one of the endpoints, and adjust our compass so it's on top of the other endpoint. And this helps us to measure the length of the segment. So our second step is to measure the segment with our compass. And now we can move our compass over to the point that we drew earlier, and without changing the width of it, without changing the measurements, we're now going to draw an arc. Draw an arc that goes from your point. And now in our last step, we're going to connect the point with our arc using our ruler. Let's move that ruler over here and turn it. And we can now draw a line from the ruler to the arc. And this line doesn't have to be parallel, or rather the segment doesn't have to be parallel to our original segment, but it should have the same length. So our last step was to connect the point with the arc with a straight edge. And since we are luckier than those ancient Greek people, right, we can actually go ahead and use our ruler now, because it has those measurements, to see if we did a good job. Just to check though. So our segment that we created, that we constructed, is 50 units long. Let's look at the original one, and guess what? This one is also 50 units long, and so we copied a nice little segment there using our ruler, our straight edge I should say, and our compass. The next thing we're going to construct is a bisector of a segment. We're going to bisect a segment. Well, as you can see here, we have to start somewhere. The segment is already given to us. The segment is given together with the instructions to bisect it. So we start at one endpoint. In other words, the center of our compass is going to be on one endpoint, and we're going to open the compass, and it has to be open wider than halfway across the segment. So I've eyeballed it. The midpoint of the segment is probably around here, and so this is where I put my compass. And now with like this, we are going to draw either two arcs, or we can even draw a full circle. You can make it two arcs, one above and one below the line, or you can even make it a full circle. And now you have to move your compass to the other endpoint, again without changing the width of it, and draw another two arcs, and those two arcs have to intersect with a first two arcs or circle. As I said, you can make it either two arcs or a whole circle, but they have to intersect in two places. So we started at one endpoint, the center of the compass was on that endpoint, and we drew either two arcs or an entire circle. It's totally up to you. And then we went to the other endpoint, and it has to be without changing the compass, right? The width of the compass has to stay the same. And we drew another two arcs, or you can also make it a circle. So I made it a circle the first time around and two arcs the second time. And as I said, that's totally up to you. But the important point is that you have to have two intersections. Two intersections. So what we did by doing that, we created 2 points, A and B, and those 2 points are both equally far away from X and Y, which are the endpoints of our segment. A is the same distance from X and Y, and B is also the same distance from X and Y. And by connecting A and B, which is what we're going to do next, we're going to create a line, and every point on that line is also going to be equal distance from x and y. They may get closer to x and y and then further again as they go further down, but the distance to both sides is always the same. And so when we connect these 2 points, we will create a point on the segment x and y, which is named here by the letter M, and that is the midpoint because it's also equally far away from x and y. That's the whole point of the exercise. So we would now use our straight edge and connect those two intersection points A and B. So this line that we have created is a bisector of the segment x and y. And using our ruler now, I'm going to move it over here. We're going to see something very neat. Nice side effect, if you will. You have probably noticed that little symbol, the little square in the corner there, indicating a right angle, and this is also confirmed by our ruler. The bisector that we have just created is perpendicular to the segment. And we remember, right, that perpendicular means intersecting not just any way, but at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to actually go and put up here in parentheses that the bisector is a perpendicular bisector. For your summary, I want you to compare and contrast. Describe how a midpoint and a segment bisector are similar, in which ways they are similar, and in which ways they are different. Have fun, and I will see you in class.